Did you know that the species of swallow that famously nested at Mission San Juan Capistrano in California can also be found over much of the United States, Mexico, and Canada during the breeding season? It's true, and cliff swallows are quite common within their range during the spring and summer breeding season. Father John O'Sullivan, pastor of Mission San Juan Capistrano from 1910 to 1933, who also personally undertook the restoration of the old mission, tells the story in his book, Capistrano Nights, of how the swallows came to call the mission home. One day, while walking through town, O'Sullivan saw a shopkeeper, broomstick in hand, knocking down mud swallow nests that were under the eaves of his shop. The birds were darting back and forth through the air, squealing over the destruction of their homes. "What in the world are you doing?" O'Sullivan asked. "Why, these dirty birds are a nuisance and I am getting rid of them," the shopkeeper responded. "But where can they go?" "I don't know and I don't care," he replied, slashing away with his broomstick. "But they've no business here, destroying my property." O'Sullivan then said, "Come on, swallows, I'll give you shelter. Come to the mission. There's room enough there for all." The very next morning, Father O'Sullivan discovered the swallows busy building their nests outside of Father Junipero Serra's church. Legend has it that ever since, the birds return every March 19th, St. Joseph's Day, to raise their young within the safety of the mission walls. Then, on October 23rd, San Juan's Day, they leave for their wintering grounds in Argentina, circling once to bid the haven goodbye. But that's the legend. In reality, according to the National Audubon Society, the birds do start arriving in the area in March, if not miraculously all on a single day. In the early 1930s, the residents in the city of Capistrano began to hold a festival on the 19th of every March to celebrate the birds' return. The event, which continues today, features ringing of the mission's historic bells, flamenco dance performances, food, and more. People come from all over the world to visit the mission and attend the event for the swallows. However, the swallows no longer nest at the mission. During the 1990s, workers removed swallow nests during a restoration project on the church. The swallow numbers at the mission dropped, and then eventually the birds disappeared. There have been many attempts to get the birds to return, but so far, no luck. Experts believe one of the biggest reasons is because the habitat around the mission has changed so much. Many more people live there and there are a lot more trees, whereas swallows are more apt to be in open areas. That said, the cliff swallow is still relatively plentiful throughout California, nesting in large colonies on buildings, cliffs, and under bridges. And I would guess that's where most of us have seen these birds, nesting under bridges. Cliff swallows are small, multicolored birds with pointed wings. They measure about 5 inches in length. Males and females are similar in appearance, and usually have dark blue brood patches at the base of the throat. However, males typically have larger blue patches than females, who sometimes lack the blue coloring altogether. They have cobalt blue on their backs and crowns, cinnamon faces and throats, and are buffy on the underparts and rumps, although the rumps can have some rufous mixed in. They also have buffy foreheads and collars. To spot the difference between a cliff swallow and a similar looking barn swallow, look for the coloration and, maybe more importantly, the tails. Cliff swallows have squared tails, sometimes notched, while barn swallows have forked tails, as seen here. The cliff swallow is very similar in appearance to the cave swallow, but there are ways to distinguish between the two. For one, the cave swallow tends to have a darker, more cinnamon rump than the cliff swallow, as seen here. Another way, and maybe the best way, is that the cave swallow has a paler, buff-colored face and throat compared to the cliff swallow, which has a rusty face and dark throat. Additionally, cliff swallows have a pale forehead, while cave swallows have dark foreheads, as seen here. Cliff swallows are summer residents in North America, and their range covers much of the continent. Their range extends from Texas to Maine to Alaska and down into Mexico. They spend winters in South America. Cliff swallows can be found in a variety of habitats, including grasslands, open and semi-open land, river edges, lakes, and even parks and towns. Cliff swallows eat mostly flying insects, which they catch in midair. Insects eaten include flies, wasps, ants, beetles, grasshoppers, crickets, bees, lacewings, moths, butterflies, damselflies, and dragonflies, according to the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. Cliff swallows almost always nest in colonies. Nesting begins with acquiring mud and grass. These birds gather mud in their bills along stream banks, lakesides, or puddles, usually near the colony. Both males and females carry mud pellets back in their bills and mold them into place. A completed nest is gourd-shaped and contains 900 to 1200 individual mud pellets. That's a lot of work. According to the Cornell lab, while cliff swallow colonies can be somewhat small in the east, they are usually larger in the west and can number as high as 3,700 nests in one spot. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. Please like, and if you haven't already, subscribe. And now, ladies and gents, the Ink Spots singing their smash hit, When the Swallows Return to Capistrano.
When the swallows come back to Capistrano, that's the day you promised to come back to me. When you whispered farewell in Capistrano, 'twas the day the swallows flew out to the sea. All the mission bells will ring, the chapel choir will sing, the happiness you'll bring will live in my memory. When the swallows come back to Capistrano, that's the day I pray that you'll come back to me. Mission bells will ring, the chapel choir will sing, the happiness you'll bring will live in my memory. When the swallows come back to Capistrano, that's the day I pray that you come back to